Which championship side will have to travel the furthest next season? Today, I'll be telling you that, as well as how far every championship side will have to travel altogether next season. So stay tuned to the end of the video to find out how far your club, if your team is in the championship, how far they'll be travelling next season. Let's get the boring stuff out of the way. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe. It's quick and easy, so why not do it right now before the video starts? 24th, Birmingham City. They'll have to travel the least next season, only 2,600 miles. The closest game to them is, of course, West Brom. However, the furthest trip the Brom fans will have to make is to Plymouth, 203 miles away. 23rd, Leicester City. They'll have to travel 2,623 miles next season, the newly relegated club. The closest game to them is Coventry, and furthest away, once again, like a lot of teams on this list, is Plymouth Argyle, the furthest trip for the Foxes fans next season. 22nd, Coventry. They'll have to travel 2,629 miles next season. Closest game, of course, the neighbours, Birmingham. The stadium shared with them a few years ago, but the longest journey, like the other two, is against Plymouth Argyle. 21st, West Brom. They'll have to travel 2,671 miles next season altogether. The closest game for them is Birmingham City. However, the biggest trip they'll have to make is up to Sunderland for the Baggies. 20th, Sheffield Wednesday. They'll have to travel 2,879 miles next season. Closest game for them is Rotherham, only up the road for them. However, the furthest fixture they'll have to travel to is Plymouth, 295 miles away. Yeah, top to bottom really of the country for them. 19th place, it's Stoke. The closest game they'll have to play next season is against West Brom. However, the furthest away they'll have to go is to Plymouth, 239 miles away. However, as a total, Stoke will be travelling 2,885 miles next season. 18th place, Rotherham. They'll have to travel 2,910 miles next season. The closest trip for them against Sheffield Wednesday over the furthest, like many on this list, down to Plymouth Argyle. 17th, Huddersfield. They'll have to travel 3,168 miles as a total next season. Well, the closest trip for them comes against Leeds. However, they'll have to travel to Plymouth Argyle for their furthest trip of the season. In 16th, it's Leeds. They'll have to travel 3,184 miles next season. Closest of them will be to Huddersfield. Furthest away for them, once again, Plymouth win that prize. In the 15th, it's Watford. They'll have to travel 3,294 miles next season. Closest of those is, of course, QPR Loftus Road for that one. And furthest away, Sunderland, 261 miles away to the north for them. In 14th, it's QPR. They'll have to travel a grand total of 3,494 miles next season, while the closest of those visits come against Millwall, and the furthest away they'll have to travel is to Sunderland. In 13th, it's Blackburn. They'll have to travel 3,524 miles next season, while the closest of them is Preston, 14 miles away. And the furthest trip for them is, of course, Plymouth, over 300 miles to get down to the south for that fixture. In the middle, 12th, it is Preston. They'll have to travel 3,563 miles. Once again, the furthest fixture for them is over 300 miles away to Plymouth. However, the closest game for Preston is against their neighbours, Blackburn Rovers. Into the top half now then, 11th, we've got Bristol City with the closest fixture for them against Cardiff. Furthest away fixture, of course, up to Sunderland, almost 300 miles away, and a grand total of 3,652 miles for Bristol City to be travelling next season. 10th place, Hull. They will have to travel a grand total of 3,675 miles next season. The furthest trip for them is, of course, down to Plymouth, while the closest trip to them is Leeds, 60 miles away. In ninth, it's Millwall. They'll have to travel 3,678 miles next season. Closest of them is to QPR, and the furthest they'll have to travel is up to Sunderland. Going into the top 8 now, and from here on in, we talk about some serious distances being covered by these teams. In 8th, it is Southampton. They have to travel 4,101 miles next season. Closest of those is to QPR, which really isn't close, 76 miles away. And the furthest distance they have to travel is up to Sunderland, over 300 miles away. Crazy distances for Southampton next season on the return to the Championship. 7th place, it's Cardiff. They'll have to travel 4,144 miles next season. Closest to those visits to Swansea, and the furthest they'll have to travel is to Sunderland. Making the top 6 is Ipswich. They'll have to travel 4,283 miles next season, while Norwich is the closest visit for them next season. However, they'll have to travel 324 miles to get to Plymouth next season. 5th place, and that goes to Middlesbrough. They'll have to travel 4,290 miles next season. Well, the closest of that is 31 miles to Sunderland. Furthest, you guessed it, Plymouth Argyle. Almost, we're only 20 odd miles off, reaching 400 miles for that trip to Plymouth. So a long distance. Fair play to any Middlesbrough fans that make that trip down to Plymouth on that game day. 4th place, it's the Canaries, Norwich City. They'll have to travel 4,396 miles next season. Closest to them is Ipswich, and the furthest away, you guessed it once again, Plymouth Argyle. Into the top 3 now, and in third it is my team, Swansea City. We'll have to travel 4,882 miles next season. Sunderland being the furthest away for that one, almost 350 miles away that. Closest, it's our local rivals, Cardiff. And the top 2 now, it's between Sunderland and Plymouth. They've been the furthest away fixtures for all these sides in the list, really. No one else has come up. But in second, it is Sunderland. They'll have to travel 4,890 miles next season. Middlesbrough the closest to them. And furthest, you guessed it, Plymouth Argyle, over 400 miles away. And top of the piles, you know it, and it really wasn't close. It's Plymouth, 6,013 miles they'll have to travel next season, which is ridiculous, really. Closest one is Bristol, over 100 miles away. Just put that in perspective, that is crazy. Bristol is their closest one. And the furthest away is Sunderland, once again over 400 miles away. You just know these fixtures are going to get chosen for 12 o'clock Saturday kickoffs on Sky, aren't they? Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you have, please drop a like and subscribe as I say. Comment your thoughts on how far your team's going to be travelling next season. Let me know, if you go to away games, which one are you most looking forward to? Let me know in the comment section down below. And I'll see you in the next one very soon, guys. Take care. Goodbye.